Starting off right around 1950 when Pucci opens his boutique in Capri. For those of you who didn't see yesterday's video, before Pucci opens his boutique in Capri, he really gets his launch in fashion design through ski wear. And it's in the 1950s when he starts developing kind of the patterns and the fabrics for which he's known today. So when Pucci establishes his boutique in the small fishing village of Capri, he starts selling clothes to the kind of ritzy clientele that frequents Capri in the summer months. What he starts doing is really embracing this new trend of ready-to-wear, which is kind of in opposition to haute couture. To see brands, especially even earlier than Pucci, like Mariano Fortuny, Paul Poiret, really moving into the idea of kind of looser, free-flowing clothing that still accentuates a woman's body, but it doesn't really trap it in the same way that bodices, corsets, and things like that used to. And that, in my view, is one of the most beautiful things about Pucci's clothing. When you look at the designs that Pucci is really making, what's so interesting about them is he's really just absorbing the world around him and then articulating it through patterns, shapes, and colors. Color palette is very reminiscent of especially the Mediterranean where he is. So you get, these beautiful kind of azure blues, verdant greens, lemon yellows, bougainvillea pinks, all of these colors that you associate with places like Capri, for instance. You also see him absorbing a lot through travel, different countries, different places. In the Siciliana collection, you see a lot of influences from Sicily, whether it's the cultural traditions, things like mosaics, or the natural landscape. You also have a collection from 1964 based on travels through Africa. I personally have a problem with just associating things with Africa broadly. Africa is a vast continent comprising many, many countries. So this idea that things just have African influence is silly to me. But anyway, it was a collection that was hugely successful. That was based on his travels throughout Africa. You also have a collection based on Siena, kind of historic horse race called the Palio that's run every year in the city square. Some of the colors and kind of the psychedelic kind of influence is also inspired by his experience in World War II. As I mentioned yesterday, he was a bomber pilot. So he actually would fly over Europe and look down and see these kind of blurred colors beneath him. So this idea of the kaleidoscopic colors is also inspired by his experience in World War II. What I think also is interesting about Pucci is not only is he designing these patterns, but he's also patenting different fabrics like silk jerseys and things. He also was a pioneer in the lifestyle space. Pucci is one of the first designers to make everything from handbags to lingerie to ready-to-wear to housewares. Obviously, Pucci has waxed and waned in popularity across the decades. Kind of had this recent resurgence is especially due to the recent artistic director, Micheli, who really understands that Pucci at the end of the day is much more about lifestyle, joie de vivre, color, vibrancy, than it is about just being high fashion. He's done a great job at tapping into the vibrancy that is at the core of what Pucci is. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little history deep dive. Talk to you later. Bye.